Welcome to the Autumn Grow Along introduction. So, welcome. Thank you for signing up. Hopefully, you will have managed to pre order some of the seeds, but don't worry if you missed out. You can buy the seeds from somewhere else and you can still join the Grow Along. So, I just wanted to give you all the information that you needed and your shopping list prior to the Grow Along. So we will be doing a live grow along in the middle of September, but you might already have some of the seeds or you might be thinking about doing it earlier. So you will have all the information that you need to know before you get started. So first things first, we are going to talk about compost. Now, I haven't actually used this one myself because the brand that I always love to use is Silver Grow. But lots of my lovely followers who have done the grow alongs have used this Verve compost, which you can get from B&Q. It's £6 for a 50-litre bag, and the success that they have had is phenomenal. I've not had anybody have any problems with this compost. So this is a great alternative. And actually, I'm not going to use Silver Grow. I'm going to use it as well for the first time. So I'm really keen to give this a go as well. You will need a peat-free compost. If you can't get this or you can't get the Silver Grow, just make sure that you are getting one which says that it's suitable for seeds. So this one says on here, seeds and cutting. There is a huge range of different composts you can get, and some of them aren't quite fit for purpose when it is seed sowing. So this is the compost I'll be using. I know lots of you are using it too. So that is the first thing that is important. Now, secondly, we're going to be talking about containers for sowing your seed. Now, when it comes to the containers that you are going to be using for sowing, you absolutely don't have to use the same ones as me. You can grow seeds in any container. It could be a grape punnet, it could be a baked bean tin. You don't have to spend any money on containers, but I'm just sharing what I find has really helped me. And over the years, I've kind of experimented and found something that works for me. And I'm also going to show you how to make your very own milk carton greenhouse if you haven't got a greenhouse. So let's talk about growing. So when we are autumn sowing, these seedlings are going to need winter protection. So you will need to have a zippy greenhouse or a cold frame or somewhere frost free for the seedlings to be. It doesn't have to be a heated greenhouse. Mine is just a plastic flimsy zippy one, and that's absolutely fine, but they will need protection. If you haven't got anything like that, sometimes people use clear storage containers with lids, like a toy box. But if you're sowing along and you've bought the whole collection, that is going to be a lot of seeds, so you do have to think about that. But for me, these are the containers which I love, which I have linked for you. They cost around, the price fluctuates a bit on Amazon, but somewhere between £10 and £12 for 10 of these setups. So you get the base, the drip tray, the lid, and the cell tray. And this has got 12 individual cells in it. Now, the reason that I love these so much is I've got a real problem with slugs in my garden. And also, I don't have the warmest conditions here for growing. So sometimes my seedlings take a really long time. Now, the idea of a lid of a propagator is that you put the lid on to keep the temperature and humidity perfect in there to get the seed to germinate. And then normally you just take the lid off and you don't then need the lid again. But because of the slugs and snails in the garden, I often lose a lot of seedlings. So what I do is I put the lid on at night, and it just means that I know the seedlings are safe and I'm not going to lose any, because I find that really frustrating. So for me and my sowing, this is worth it is worth the investment because I don't suffer with much loss. So this works brilliantly for me. So you get 12 cells and your lid, and then the insert comes out. So you can always make sure there's enough moisture in there. They're just fantastic and a really good investment. What you need to be thinking about also is how many of these flowers you need for your garden, because, and we will talk about this when we do the grow along, you will end up having a seed tray like this with lots of seedlings. And we then do something called thinning out, which I'll teach you how to do. But you're basically going to need each one of these seedlings to have its own cell. If you have got a small garden or you're not wanting lots of plants, then you might thin them out so that you've got one of each variety in this cell tray, which has got 12. So that would be that you're going to have 12 of one plant. But if, like me, you love to grow lots and you want to have backups, then it's a really good idea to get yourself something like this. This was from Homebase. They come in a pack of 4. I think you get 4 of these for £4, something like that. But they're really readily available in lots of places. And as you can see, there is just a lot more cells. I think this might be 24, maybe even more. And what it means is that when your seedlings have germinated in this container, you can thin some of them out into individual cells here, and you can have a whole tray of one variety. So that's great if you're needing to fill your garden or you want lots of seedlings to give to friends. So what you do need to think about is that, because yeah, you potentially will have loads of seedlings, but if you don't want loads, then you can stick with this. So we will thin them out into their own individual cell, either in one like this or one like this. So they will need that size to do a little bit more growing. Then we will get to the point, and this often does happen before winter. So we're going to sow them in September, often around November time, maybe. It all varies on whether we get an Indian summer. We can't really predict the weather, but sometimes they grow really quick. And before the winter, they will need potting up into one more size. Now, I have got these, which are, I think they're actually 7 centimetres. And I bought these from Amazon as a pack of 50. I will link those for you. And these are great for the next size up. And then really, this is the only size that I pot them into before they then go in the garden in the spring. So this is a really good next size up. But probably if you are well into your gardening journey, you might have a stash of pots like this lying around, 8, 9 centimetres, something like that. These will be perfect to pot into as well. So that's what you need to think. So before the winter, we're going to be growing, thinning them out, and then putting them in something this sort of size. Now, all of the seeds that we are growing will grow at a completely different speed. So things like Malva and Lavatera, when I grew them last year, this is a Lavatera here actually, this got enormous. So it went into that size very quickly. Some of the smaller things like snapdragons stayed in a tray like this, and larkspur for a much longer amount of time. So that's just something to think about. So you don't need to be ordering these now, but you need to think about what you're going to do once we've got past the germination stage. So that's your compost, your pots, and then you will need plant labels. Now, you can buy plant labels really inexpensively online, but you can also make them yourself just with a milk carton. So if you just take yourself some scissors, snip yourself, I'll show you, a few strips like this, and that makes the perfect plant label. And get yourself a garden marker pen because it doesn't fade in the sun. So you don't need to buy plant labels, you can really easily make your own. Next up, I'm going to show you how to make your very own mini greenhouse out of a milk carton. So it could be that you're gardening in a small space and you really don't have space for a zippy. Then lots of people really successfully grow in milk bottles, and I'll show you how to do it. And what people tend to do actually, and I have followed quite a few people's journeys who do this, they actually skip the thinning out process, just do the sowing and just leave them in here all winter. So what you want to do, it's better to do it with a blade, but I've only got scissors to hand here, is you're going to be cutting part the way around your milk bottle, leaving this back flat panel. So let me just do that now. and just cutting. Just like that. So you've got an opening like this. Then next up, it's really important that everything that you grow in has drainage holes. Now you can just use a screw or a screwdriver or something hot, like a hot kebab stick or something. And I literally just screw a screw into the bottom to make your drainage holes. You probably want about 12 or 15 drainage holes. So you've got your drainage holes, you then fill your carton with compost, and then you can write on your carton the variety that you've sown, and then you just seal it up with some brown tape, remove the lid, and that is all you have to do. So when it rains, when there's a change in humidity, it naturally keeps the compost really moist, and you don't even have to water it or do anything. What you will need to do is put that in a sheltered spot, because otherwise these will blow around your garden. So you could line them all up, kind of compact it in with a brick or something at the end, and that's just a really good way of still being able to grow, but without a greenhouse or a zippy. The other thing I have experimented with, which does work really well, is you can actually cut up some of these cell trays and squeeze them in here. If you didn't want them to be really overcrowded with seeds, you could put your cell tray inside here just so that they've got their individual cells. That would work really well too. But these are brilliant. And yeah, if you're needing protection or you've got a few plants in 9 centimeters, you can do it that way. It's just great. If you've got the space to have lots of these, then it is a really good alternative. Then the last thing that we need to talk about is the position of where these seedlings are going to need to be over the winter. So to get them to germinate, I will be putting mine just in a nice sunny spot, because they will need the warmth to get going and to germinate. So a nice sunny spot with the lids on. And in fact, this is some of the autumn seedlings which I've already started. And you can, I actually did half a variety in each side, that's why it looks different. But yeah, you can see that these ones are doing really well, and these are now ready to be thinned out. But I watered them, sowed them, put the lid on with the vents open, and I had that just in the garden in a sunny spot. And now we've got germination. So they will need a nice sunny spot. And then the key when you are growing over winter is that the position of your greenhouse or your cold frame is in a nice sunny spot. So in the winter, the sun is lower in the sky, so you really need to work out where in your garden will get a good amount of light and a good amount of sun. It is no use having a greenhouse in a shady spot, so really think carefully about that. Something that seedlings can do if they don't get enough light is they will just stretch to reach the light, and you'll end up with a really tall leggy seedling, which is not what we want. And that's also why we can't grow seedlings on windowsills inside, because they just wouldn't get enough light. You can get away with doing that in the spring, starting lots of stuff up, and actually I sow loads early winter on windowsills, but it then does go out in the greenhouse. So you need to think really carefully about where they're going to get enough light. And really, that is everything you need to get going. So you have your seeds, you're going to make your choice on your compost. You need to think about what you're going to be starting your seedlings off in, and then what you're going to pop them up into next. You know about making your own plant labels, about the position. We're going to be checking the water levels regularly to make sure that they've got enough water, and that's it. So thank you for being a part of this grow along. It's so exciting. Lots of the varieties that I'm going to be growing are totally new to me. Some of them are favourites of mine, but lots of them are completely new. I've never grown them, so we're totally going to be doing this together. As always, if you have any questions, then please do ask. You can ask me over on Instagram, or if you would like more support and guidance with your gardening journey, then think about signing up to my membership. We have got an amazing community app with hundreds of members, and people can ask me questions and get a really quick answer. And also within the community, everyone helps each other out, which is lovely. So thank you for signing up. Thank you for being a part of this grow along. And I cannot wait for us to be sat in our gardens next year, surrounded by all of the beautiful flowers that we have grown together.